Well, hey YouTube, it's Petey Two Finger. How the heck are you? I'm here with the Mystic Spirit Box. I just finished this device. This is something I had on my list for a really long time. The Mystic Spirit Box is it's an oscillator box with an echo, a built-in amplifier, and speaker. So the oscillator is a kit that I bought from eBay. It's a 22 XR2206. That's the chip. So here's the board. This is one of the kits. This is an example of one of the kits, what it looks like when you buy this kit. It's a really simple build. There's 3 electrolytic capacitors, 5 poly caps, 3 resistors, 3 pots, the chip, and some connectors. Now I did not, because I was planning on building this into a... You know what, hon? We got to put these extra components in where they would go. So I'm just going to set this off to the side, and later on I'll ask you to put them away. Normally you build it into this case. It comes with this little plastic case, and then you and it has the potentiometers. So you end up with this thing. You can plug it in, and there's an output you can tie in with. The output you tie the output in via a screw terminal connector. So yeah, it looks like that. And this kit is, you know, they're like $5 to $8 with shipping. I think I got 2 for $9 with a combined shipping deal. The story behind this is I've been building these for a long time, using various methods, and it's kind of evolved, as you would expect. At this point, I use the XR2206 chip as opposed to a 555 timer IC. Of course, why don't you just use a 555 timer IC? Well, when you've heard a sine wave, you don't want to settle for a square wave. That's why. Because the sine wave sounds a lot better. It really does. Now, you know, again, when you're just getting into this, there's nothing wrong with the square wave, and you might even want that. You know, they're apples and oranges, and it's just personal preference. But as I continued to build these devices, I found I was really partial to the sine wave, which is what you hear in an actual theremin. Is a sine wave. It's a smooth wave. When you find that in the lower frequencies, when you're on a low note on a homemade oscillator, the square wave will pop. It will go pop, 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 pop. It almost sounds like you're shorting, like it's just voltage being applied to the speaker through an amplifier, which is not a pleasant tone. It's a sharp, crackly shock sound. This doesn't do that so much. It's more smooth. When it gets into the lower ends, it'll actually sing. Until some point when you break up, it does kind of start almost that same type of behavior. But it's much more musical, and through the delay, it sounds pretty neat. So, yeah, is there a DIY solution to build a sine wave oscillator that's simple, low parts count? Please enlighten me. Where's the Vero layout for that? Because that's what I need. I need a Vero layout for it so I can build it. So coming at me sideways like I'm an asshole, and this really isn't a project that I should be proud of because I bought a kit for the oscillator is fine, and I understand that. But I could show you stuff I've built from scratch. And, you know, really, when you've been down this road and you've been doing it, you learn that oftentimes from scratch is easier than from a kit, and taking something that was designed to do one thing and forcing it to do another, it can be challenging. So what we have on the Mystic Spirit board is a master power switch. We have a override bypass switch for the slide synth control and a momentary. This will enable that feature. This will enable it momentarily. This is a crash or feedback switch for the delay. This is the delay time, I believe. This is maybe the delay feedback. Don't quote me. This is the master volume for the... No, this is the fine control for the oscillator. This is the amplitude control, which means volume for the oscillator board. This is the master volume for the amplifier. And this is the coarse control for... You got fine and coarse on the amplitude, on the sine wave, which this switch here is a range. So this is low octave, this is high octave. And then this override, this switch here, these two switches, what that overrides is this. This is wand here, has an LED on the end of it. And it mates with this is an antenna that I've disconnected. And rather than make a rudimentary crack pipe and sit and smoke my crack, I used antennas to make this slide controller, which the opposite end of that has a cadmium sulfide cell. It's a CDS cell, which is a wee-oo. That's the way I've wired it is in conjunction with the coarse pitch control. So how it works is this device when you crack the latch, it lets air out of the top. And you can do that little wah-wah thing. Kind of like a pig nose amp is what my pal Clementine pointed out. I'm almost thinking I ought to port it. No, never port it. Then you wouldn't be able to do that. Unless you put your thumb over the port. So should we take a look on the inside? You can see the wiring. I used old IDE hard drive cable. And then on the inside, there's a lithium-ion battery pack over there. Up here is the oscillator board. Over here is the echo unit, and then the speaker in the middle. So as you can see, it's kind of a rat nest. I typically don't trip out about my gut shots. There's guys that do build like that, and hats off to them. I tend to throw it all in there, and if anything does break, it's rare. And it's rare that I have stuff that malfunctions, but I tend to, I use flux a lot when I'm soldering and clean my iron tip. And I use a 40 or 60 watt iron. And I've been doing it for a while. So you kind of learn as you go what's going to fly and what's going to break. This particular project was a unbelievable pain in the ass, has been the tradition for the past couple of years. Someone cursed me, I think. And seriously, I can't, everything I build doesn't work anymore. I built this thing, and the main board made contact with the positive side of the speaker, and it blew out the main board. Now, I laid hands on it and found a spot where I could like lick my finger and make it to sing. So I cut a resistor in there and momentarily got it back to life until I could order another main board from China, the oscillator board. I actually ordered two because it's like, it's not that much money really, and you have to wait so long, and it's not like I won't use that other oscillator. I'll use it. I like to make one of these once a year. They all have their own personality. They all have slightly different features. Like most of the time, usually these switches here will be, what you'll do, you'll take the board where you're supposed to solder in the coarse pot, and you run 3 wires out of that, or 2 wires, and you'll run that to a B switch. So A goes to a pot, B goes to your slide synth controller. And then you can bypass that with the momentary. This time I didn't do it that way. How it works is so how this is hooked up. The coarse pot has a pair of wires soldered onto the junction at the motherboard, and that runs to this CDS cell. This power switch and override here, the override is just a clone. It's the wiring for the switches here, so it's on or off in between these two, and then you run another pair to that momentary contact dinger doorbell switch, and that overrides the switch. So the voltage, the power to turn the LED on is on these two switches. So if we turn this on, here I'm hitting that momentary switch, and then you get this up here. So when you can hear it, if I move this by this lamp, it's just the lights going through this hole. If I put this LED in here and turn the LED on, well, let's bring it up. Sorry. I'm really sorry about that. Happy birthday. So this is a pretty versatile little box. One of the things you can do to make this more interesting, but it's also a lot more work, is you build additional oscillators. Like if you have 3 more oscillators going through a mixer circuit, or then you can have LFO, you can put a filter on it, you can put a ring modulator. And at that point, when you have 4 oscillators, a mixer, ring modulator, filter, echo, and several LFOs that you can assign to all this other stuff, that's really a rudimentary synthesizer is what it is. I mean, I hate to say that. Like, I built a synthesizer. But compared to a single 555 chip with nothing else, and guys calling them synths on the internet all day, I can say that something like the Newt K. Souk that I built is closer to a rudimentary synthesizer. Although you're not, there's no 12-tone keyboard to play it. You're stuck with and what the reason that this thing has the timbrality that it does, there's 2 reasons that it has a fairly pleasant timbre. How do you say that word? Timbre, right? Number 1, it's not using a square wave. If you look at that on a scope, it'll show you that it's pulses. So those jagged edges, you hear those. That's why it sounds like a guitar with a distortion on sometimes. A square wave will. And they'll when you look at a distorted guitar on an oscilloscope, it's a square wave. How do you like that? Petey's not so fucking full of shit all of the time as everyone would think that he is. But this is all just rudimentary stuff. Now, that sine wave thing, making it more vocal, like when you hear a theremin, to me, it almost sounds like an opera singer singing sometimes. Like, it's beautiful. But so the 3 things that differentiate the Petey two-finger noise box from the traditional ones. Because Clementine said to me, man, your shit sounds nice. And there's reasons for that. Okay, so in this case of the Mystic Spirit box, and I named that of this because it just looked like something you'd see, like if you want to have your palm read, this box with a crystal ball sitting on top of it. This box looked like that, and then I pictured of doing like kind of ghosty noises, with the echo. But again, the three things that help this to be a little easier on the ear than if I were to go with a real basic design, 555 timer chip, square wave, and just a speaker just sitting there, is the box has a resonance to it, and I'm using a subwoofer speaker from a computer speaker, like a computer sub. So that doesn't have a real lot of high end naturally on the speaker itself. It's almost to its detriment when you're running it with just this hole. So you've kind of got to crack it and get a little bit of that top end coming out. And then the echo. The echo is the other thing. Every time I build a device that has a sliding pitch scale, a slide synth controller, or a pot to control the pitch, I always do a built-in delay. And that's the difference. Because most guys they'll demo it, and you might find some guy that puts delay on it. He'll run it through his guitar pedal or whatever. But I've never seen anybody built the delay in with the device. I've never seen that. And as far as talking about the individual boards that are in this contraption, all this stuff was purchased on eBay. The amp is a TDA 2030A amp, and let's go over to eBay. And I'll just show you guys rather than hold this thing up with a flashlight. It won't take long. We'll hop over on eBay and I'll show you what I bought to throw this thing together. TDA 2030A. Here we go, $1.72. This is the one. Here is the 103, so that's a 10K pot. So basically I stick my snips in here and cut this off. I cut all these here up in here and throw this away. And then these 3 points I'll go in with a soldering iron and just solder wires right onto those little studs that are sticking up. And those will run to the volume pot for the master volume. So this chip here, depending on what it sees, it can be, I don't know, it's like something like 14 watts they rate it at. The connection here is this header. So you have the VCC is the positive voltage, and then the input for the audio, and then a pair of grounds. And you stick a piece of double-sided tape under here to mount it. So it's really unbelievably simple design. And then when we're gonna search for a PT2399 board, and these here, here's one for $3. I ended up with I had a blue one. I think this is the one that I ended up with now. Mind you, I bought all this stuff before COVID, and man, it was a lot cheaper. This one, it's got these connectors. You can use those. I'm not so hot on connectors. I tend to solder everything onto the bottom of the board. But the power supply for this is a pair of 18650 lithium-ion batteries, which is 8.5 volts, which is enough to get this thing going and echoing. It won't change the delay time. if you run it off a 6 versus 15. What it is, this here reverb adjustment, this particular, what does it say? R27 is the reverb depth resistor. If you need to change it, you can remove R27 and install a potentiometer on the SGGG. You can use a 20 to 50K potentiometer. I think I actually maybe unsoldered this pot and kept it. And I used one of my stock pots. I ran wires from these 3 connections, well, actually just 2. And then over here as well up to my own pot. But you do have to remove this because this is the preset resistor for the delay time. Okay. Now in this process of messing around in here looking for a feedback control resistor to increase or decrease the volume of the echo, I was unable to find that. What I did find was one, on this side of this one here and this side of this one here, which ended up being, I think these points also made contact here at this point and here maybe it was. There was 2 kind of easy to solder external points besides going in on one of the sides of these SMT components, which equaled out where I was shorting in here and here with a circuit bending probe, which is basically like a 1K resistor, you know, a piece of wire with some probes on the end of it, and in the middle you solder in a 1K resistor. So when I connected these 2, it would crash the delay. And I'll demonstrate that again in a minute here. But we did the amp, we did the XOR 2206 board. Let's do the sine wave generator. You guys can take a look at that. And of course, it's not coming up. So let's just go to XR2206. And here it is. Now, of course, they're $12. Believe me, these were quite a bit cheaper. I paid $9 for 2. And that was including the shipping. So here's the picture of the kit as it's assembled with everything. Do they show you just the board? It's a lot bigger than if you can picture, when you're looking at this, the size of that 12-volt connector, then you'll get an idea of how small this thing really actually is. So this project was, you could do this, like, this project, it all came down to this chassis, okay? I just fell in love with this box and I wanted to make a noise box into it. It's really heavy and it has that thing with the door resonance. So I love it. I really do love this one. But if you were going to build one of these for yourself, I wouldn't necessarily recommend buying everything on eBay, unless that's fine with you, if you don't mind buying stuff prepackaged. But another way to do it is to build your own oscillator, build your own PT2399 delay, and then build your own amp. Build the punch amp, build the and I mean even the delay, like that Kuroki Echo, you'd be better off going to Delic and purchasing his delay, his PT2399 delay. I have a PCB here for that, and I was going to build that for this. I think I might make that and just build it into a pedal, just to have a little echo box here. So look forward to that video coming at some point. I'm actually going to be doing some amplifiers. I'm building a Thunderbird into a small case. Might end up being a little larger case. I don't want to fight and turn it into a thing where I'm cursing and swearing and burning myself on the soldering iron. So we'll see. But I've got the Thunderbird. The stuff I had purchased parts for was the Thunderbird and this Tweed amp. So I've still got stuff that, you know, this box here is stuff that's coming from China that I haven't built the projects yet for. So, with much relish, do I cross the Mystic Spirit box off my list. This thing was on my list forever. And now it's done. And I'm so happy for that. My neighbors are going to call the cops. So that's the Mystic Spirit box. Thanks for joining me. I have more of this stuff in the future. I think the next one that I'm going to want to build I've got this. It's a sequencer. It's a 4-step sequencer. So it's got a rate control, and there's four for the tone, the pitch of each sequencer step. And it's finished. It just doesn't have a home. So I was thinking of building that into a silverware service box with a slide synth. So it would be, I would have to build a mixer circuit. I would think I would want to have a legitimate PT2399 delay, of course a built-in amp and speaker, and then maybe do a ring mod. There's this, and I bought the chips to play with this do-it-yourself ring modulator, and I never followed through. So the ring mod might be kind of crappy, but the delay will be better. It'll have a feedback and a volume control for the infinite repeats. Instead of, did I even show you the crash feature? I didn't. Like the delay's not working. Yeah, it throws it into infinite repeat. This thing is so much fun. It has a lot of character, and I could not be happier about the Mystic Spirit Box. So yeah, I'm gonna check out the what's it called? I gotta watch that Heisenberg thing. Your Honor. And there's a new show, a science fiction thing, that got like a decent review. I think it's called Stuff Debris. Yeah. It's like an African American woman and then a gay guy. The gay cowboy cop from that, what was that show? Las Vegas. All right, take care. Thanks for joining me. Sorry this video was so incredibly long, but I'll give you guys a break. No video tomorrow.